Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores, making the switches easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
And hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. If you are new to this web series, let me tell you what we are about. This is the web series where we like to talk that real talk. We like to talk about things that people don't really put out there, or we kind of keep it to ourselves and our small clicks. Well, we like to put all that stuff out there, and we like to talk about things that are steamy. This isn't the web series for celebrity gossip, so if you're looking for celebrity gossip, not here. So this is an educational web series, of course, and I have my guests talk about their life stories, or they talk about things that they are well versed in, and all of that is to educate you. So not only do we like to talk that real talk, but we like to educate as well. And we tend to focus on certain things. We tend to focus on financial literacy, or things in employment, or things in education. I have a whole series of episodes about living with disabilities, divorce. What else? I'm trying to think of it. What entrepreneurs are doing wrong, sales tips, all that. So we like to stay within a scope of things, but within those scope of things, we like to get down and dirty. So with that said, our topic for today is, how do I budget? Right? I know it's people are like, they need tips, they need the skills, they don't know how to handle their money, they're spending too much or spending too little. Or I find myself doing this where, I spend, and when it's time to pay those bills, or it's time to, take care of what I need, I'm like, whoa, where'd all my money go, right? So if you've ever asked yourself, where did all my money go? This is the episode for you, and we are going to help you with that. So let's get right to it. I have a guest with me who is going to take the hot seat. She's going to sit on the hot seat, and she's going to educate you on how to budget. And her name is Katherine Chatmon. And I am totally looking forward to this episode. Maybe I need to get my notepad and start taking some notes, but let's get right to it. So with that said, let me introduce my guest to you. Who is Katherine Chatmon? Let me tell you who she is. So Katherine Chatmon is a paraplanner and financial wellness coach dedicated to assisting the working class. While Katherine spends her days working at a boutique wealth management firm, she spends her evenings and weekends teaching families financial literacy in hopes of increasing their financial capability. Her goal is to elevate people to the point where they are ready to build generational wealth. That is dope. Let's get right to it. Katherine, I'm going to bring you to the stage right now. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for
Awesome.
having
Awesome.
me.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to have you get right to it, but before I do that, I just want to tell the viewers watching right now, for those of you watching this in real time, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we will get to them as much as possible. And your question may be on the screen. So please utilize that chat feature. This is an interactive episode. All right. So Katherine, I'm going to hand over the baton to you and I'm just going to have you get right to it. Please educate us on how to budget.
All right. So yes, like budgeting, it's my favorite topic with financial literacy because that's the first step. A lot of people don't know about budgeting. They know they need to budget, but they don't know how to take that first step. And that's kind of where I come in. And there, for me, I've crafted about 7 steps to get people to the point where they are ready to budget. So starting with the first thing we need to do is calculate income, because how can we can't even start without knowing how much money we bring in this month. And that's important to know also, whether you have an income problem or you have a debt problem, but more about that later. The second step is to list your spending. This is where you're going to track your expenses. Typically, if someone comes to me and they're like, oh, I'm starting budgeting, and I ask them, well, how much are you spending on, for example, how much do you eat out each month? How much are you spending on that? And they can't tell me, then I immediately send that person to, you need to track your expenses. Usually about a month is the max I would tell someone to track their expenses. Once you get to the end of the month, like I tell people to harbor their receipts. And at the end of the month, I want you to separate those receipts between a need and a want. Because sometimes people have issues differentiating, like what is a need, what is a want. And so for some people, internet, it may be a need. We're in 2022. Everyone needs internet, especially with children who they don't even have textbooks anymore. They use Chromebooks and tablets. So internet may be a need, but for someone else, internet is a want because maybe they're not streaming. Maybe they just have basic cable. They may be older. So it's difficult to make budgeting a cookie cutter thing for people. So after we have our spending, we've tracked our expenses, we need to set our goals. Like, what is our point for budgeting? Do we want to retire early? Do we want to go to Disney? Are we getting married? We want to plan for a big wedding. Like, you have to have some goal in mind, because you wouldn't get in a car and drive randomly without having a destination to go to. So the same thing would apply to budgeting. So this is where it gets a little complex with people. Like, before you budget, you need to decide what strategy you're going to use. So I encourage you to go to Google and Google the different budgeting strategies. So if you're a person that doesn't use debit cards, or you're a person that always has cash on them, an envelope method may be good for you. Now, me, I'm a person that always uses my debit card. So I'm not going to stuff money with envelopes, because that's just isn't my personality. I wouldn't stick with that, and I would just fall by the wayside. Same thing may be for you. You may be a person that uses a debit card. So then we have the zero-based budget. This is one of the more popular budgets. Basically, every dollar that comes into your household, you give it a purpose. Since you're giving that dollar a purpose, you know exactly where it's going. And then lastly, a popular budgeting method is the 50-30-20 method. 50% goes to your needs, 30% goes to your savings, and 20 would usually go to your wants. That strategy is gives someone a little bit more structure, because some people can be like, yes, I can dedicate 50% to this, 30 and 20 to that. Kind of gets people with the ball rolling for their budgeting. Next, you will have to adjust your habits. So after we've seen where our money is going, we've picked our budgeting strategy. Let's just say we come up that we're in the red for the month. We have a deficit. So what do we need to do? We're spending out more money than what we're bringing in. So something's going to have to change. And that's where I mentioned earlier, if you have an income habit versus, well, you have an income problem versus a debt problem. So this is where you really sit down and be like, do I have enough money that's covering my housing, my car, my transportation, and my food? Those are your 4 major needs. If I have money left over after those, then I may need to look at and see, am I including something that can be eliminated from the budget? For example, some people may cut down their cable package to save a little money each month. Someone may cook in more, saving extra money. It comes down to like what you're comfortable with, because some people don't want to get rid of their cable package. Someone may want that deluxe sports package because, they got to see their team play. Other people, they're not going to give up their Starbucks every morning. Like, they got to have that Starbucks. So then we need to start looking at, okay, instead of 5 days a week of getting Starbucks, can we cut down to 3? And it's kind of just reworking your mind to like wean you down from something that you don't have to have it every day. Next, automate savings and bills. Warren Buffett is like one of the best financial masterminds that we have in this generation. And he has a saying that I constantly think about, is that don't spend and then save. Spend what's left after saving. And I think that's just so important, because I think a lot of people will just be like, oh, spend throughout the month. And then it comes to pay bills. They're like, oh my gosh, where did my money go? And then you haven't built up to the point where you have extra cash and savings for like emergencies or anything that happens, or an unexpected bill shows up. Like, we got to get that savings down. And then lastly, step 7 is to track your progress. I think a lot of issues with budgeting is that people think that I'm going to do this tomorrow, I'm going to do this next month, when it is a process. You're not going to, if you're at the point where you're spending $250 eating out each month, it's unreasonable for you to be like, okay, I'm only going to spend $100 next month, because what's going to happen? Your friends are going to text you, hey, do you want to go out to eat? Like, you're probably not at the point where you'd be like, oh no, it's not in my budget. Like, your friends would probably laugh at you if you were like you got a budget? So it's just important to know that your budget, it can change. Like, it's not going to be set in stone. And that's a good thing, so that's why a lot of people, they'll may only budget for 2 weeks at a time. They get paid bi-weekly. Other people will budget out for a month each time. So I'm going to switch into a few issues that I see when people start budgets. The first thing, number 1 issue, is that people, they only track and they do not budget. What I mean about that is that they'll say, oh, I spent this much this month, but they're not doing anything to reduce that amount. So for example, you spent $300 on shopping. Okay, so you need more funds for like whatever. Maybe you're going on a trip to Miami with your friends. So you're like, okay, I'm going to cut down my spending budget, but you don't actually do anything about it. You just write it down that you spent $300. Then the next month, come to find out that, oh, you spent $300 again. So another issue I see is that people forget about miscellaneous expenses. Like if you have a pet, or even annual expenses. Like, for example, it may be time to renew your car tags. You may have forgotten that. Or, you got to renew your license every few years. Another thing, holidays, birthdays, like forgetting these can like just wreak havoc to your budget, because that's extra money that you may not have anticipated. That's leaving out. So yes, that's a few issues. That's the process that I use for budgeting. And if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So let's start with the obvious. What is so difficult about budgeting? What is it about budgeting that is such a roadblock for some people?
The main thing I have seen is that our brains are not wired to budget. We are creatures of emotion. So if we see something that we like, we're not really rational about the price tag, especially if we have the money sitting in our checking account. So that's why a lot of people, they will move money into savings first. It's also, I've seen with people who have more of like, they have financial issues that they are actively seeing a therapist about. Sometimes they have to have a separate savings account that doesn't even have a debit card attached to it. Like the only way they can move money back and forth is like through using electronic transfer, which takes about 2 days.
And what is the benefit of what's the benefit of seeing, the money that you make and seeing where you spend your money? What's the benefit of knowing that information as opposed to going on a whim?
Yes. So if I'm telling you to do something, you're less likely to do it. But if I'm actually showing you where your money is going each month, you're gonna trigger your brain to think like, man, I'm really spending this much each month. And then it comes to find out that maybe you don't have an income problem, you have a debt problem. So if I get this debt out of my life, that's more income that I can have, that's more discretionary. It can go other places, whether that's retirement or vacation and such. So yeah, definitely. Like, and I think about it as like being a kid. You know how many times like maybe your parent told you to do something and you didn't do it. But as you got older and now you realize like, dang, my mom was right. I should have done this. It's all interconnected. Everything comes back full circle, that it starts with you.
So when is the right time to budget in terms of like you mentioned earlier about the envelope method, for people that prefer to use cash? When is the right time to budget? Is it like as you get paid, before you get paid, before you want to buy that special cable package? Is there a right time to start budgeting? And if so, when is that?
Yes, today would be the best answer. But no, on a serious note, you have to be ready. Like, most people I've seen when they're ready to start budgeting is that they've just reached a point of where they're tired. They're tired of working overtime. They're tired of working 2 to 3 jobs, and they're getting nowhere. Like, they're spinning their wheels. The debt is still increasing. Like, they don't have the extra money they thought they would, and they're working themselves to the bone trying to get ahead, and that's not how it works. So definitely the person has to come to a realization that, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't the lifestyle that I want. Because like I'm sitting here telling people about budgeting, like someone is going to latch on to this, but someone else may be like, yeah, that's good. All right. And they'll go like the next 2 to 3 years not implementing anything.
Right. And then are those the people that we say live check to check?
Yes, those are typically the people we say that live paycheck to paycheck. Actually, about 67% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and that number is expected to increase, especially with the rising inflation costs. And then also wages are stagnant. Like the minimum wage is still $7.25, and no one can survive on that, even with jobs that are paying like $15 an hour, depending on your geographical area. $15 an hour is nothing, especially with like rent skyrocketing, $1,200 for a 1-bedroom apartment. And then even looking at gas prices now, like these are the highest prices I've seen in my life. So there's just a lot of factors into this.
So let's let's talk about the ways to budget. So again, the envelope method is one way. What's another way we can budget?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, there's the zero-based budget. Um, every dollar that touches your hand, touches your bank account, you give it a purpose so that there's no discrepancy. You cannot say, where did my money go with a zero-based budget, because you have allocated every dollar to something, whether it was a savings, whether you dedicated it to food. Like the goal of zero-based budgeting is that you're left with $0 at the end of the month because it's already somewhere else. Then there's also the 50-30-20 method. And sometimes that number changes depending on the person. It doesn't have to be 50-30-20, but usually it's 50% for your needs, 30% for your 30% for savings, and 20% for your wants. And you will just allocate a percentage of your paycheck or your income to those avenues.
Okay, so there's a few different ways to do it. Well, what about a simple, just writing it down in a notebook and tracking all of your all of your income or all of your expenses? Is that a good method?
No, because you're not going to stick to it. I encourage that when you're first starting off with budgeting, like if you're not going to keep your receipts, I would write it down. So then at the end of the month, you can see where your money is going. But between kids, working, and etc., I do not think it's reasonable for a person to maintain their budget using pen and paper. Now, an alternative to that would be to make an Excel spreadsheet. And there's templates that you can get off Excel, or if you use Google Sheets, there are budgeting templates you can do and just input for each month the whatever you purchased, or if a bill came out of your account automatically, you can just put that in there. Now, for me, I use an Excel spreadsheet, but I also have an app that will pull in all of my transactions from my checking account, and it puts it in the spreadsheet for me. So then the only thing I have to do is categorize it.
So you're what's the word? Technologically savvy, pretty much.
Yes.
There's a lot of apps out there. I will throw in there are there's an app for everything. There's an app that will budget for you.
Yes.
So there's technology is really advanced now. So what is your feelings about apps, about computer programs, about these electrical devices that'll just do it for you and kind of take the burden away from um, what's the word? From doing things yourself, from human action, like having a computer do everything for you. What is your feelings on that?
It's good when it works. So you have to be careful also, because on some of these apps, they can be a bit malicious, because they're charging you 100 and something a year just for the budgeting features, and then it may just track your expenses. It may not even budget for you. You still have to you still have to do work even if you use an app. Like I mentioned, I still have to log into my app and categorize my transactions. While there's some apps, they'll just put a long list of all your transactions for the month, and it'll just tell you that, hey, you brought in $3,000, you spent $4,000, you're negative $1,000, and that's all it does. And that app will be like $126 a year. So I feel like that in a way is not really useful. So, and it definitely comes down to how do you use technology? Because if you're a person that's not really, not on your phone a lot, or you're not on a computer a lot, maybe you have the basic internet package, you may not want to go the route of where you have to, have an app doing the work for you. It may be better for you to do manually. And that's the issues like we come into budgeting, because you have to know what's best for you. And I know a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, such and such did this, I can do it too. But that's not your comfort level, because I want you, and the people around you who love you would want you to stick to your budget so that you don't have to work, to your 67 and then hopefully have Social Security, because again, Social Security is, slated to run out as it always has by this year. And then they'll do something to, oh, we have enough money. The government will pull money from somewhere to keep Social Security running. But depending on your income, you may not have paid enough into Social Security where you're really getting substantial monthly payments. So the last thing you want to do is be like 67, 68, still working. Like, your retirement should be it should be enjoyable, because we're only here for a short time.
So are you saying that we shouldn't depend on Social Security income, or even the government sponsored incomes or government sanctions? So things like a pension or Social Security, or what's another one? Unemployment. So are you saying these are things that we shouldn't depend on, or are these things that we should factor into our budget?
Never depend on the government to take care of you. That's my number one advice. Also, it depends on your employer. Like, a lot of people who are working now, they do not even have retirement plans, depending on their employer, or the employer may have like a stock option plan, which means basically you get company stock. But if you run into the issue where the company fails, that stock is worthless, your retirement is gone. And then, yes, don't depend on Social Security, because depending on how much you're paying in now, your Social Security is proportionate. And then also, full retirement age is 67. If you take your Social Security early, like as age 62, they're going to take a big percentage of that and knock down your monthly benefits. So it may be full retirement age, you may get the $3,000 a month, but because you're taking it at 62, they may only give you $1,800 a month, because it's a percentage per month that you are taking it early that they reduce it by.
Right. So we want to be aware of the fact that, the government does take a percent out of those types of payments. So I guess it's safe to say that one thing to know about budgeting is to know who's taking your money.
Yes, 100%. Who is taking your money each month? Where is your money going? Because like, if you're sending out money, like time you get your paycheck and you're sending out money to can't think of the name, but if you're just sending money out to just like your general debts, and then you barely have anything for yourself, like, that's a hard cycle to break, because you're going to have to pay off somebody eventually. And then, but most people, unfortunately, is that they accumulate more debt as they get older. And so then we also have the issue of that maybe the person doesn't have the life insurance to pay off those debts. And so then now the family's left in a worse predicament than they were before. So there's just all sorts of things that go into like why a budget is so important. But my number one reason why people should have a budget is that so you do not have to work to the day you die, because retirement is actually a number. It's not an age. And a lot of people don't know that. There are plenty of people who are in their 30s retired because they made wise investments, or just, they've invented a product that's going to pay them royalties to the day they die.
So you recommend that we should all get retirement accounts? What is it? An IRA, or what are they called?
Yes, there are different types of retirement accounts. Some of them can only be employer sponsored, but typically if you have income, you can open a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, and you just put money into it and you do investments But that brings up a good point, because I am hosting a Intro to Investing class on March 28th, 2022, for the people who may be rewatching this recording. Cost is only $10, Intro to Investing. If you ever wanted to know about funds, what should you invest in, it's going to be really informative. And I'm going to make it, as I said, beginner friendly for the person who's not an average investor or may not have the financial knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that that event, and we'll definitely repeat that at the end of the episode. So let's talk worst case scenario. So for the people who are just poor budgeters, overspenders, what's the worst thing that can happen to them? I know we talked about debt, and they tend to go into debt more, especially as they get older. So what other things happen to people that budget poorly?
Man, outside of mountains of debt, we just gotta consider about, man, like really it's just the mountains of debt, like just having to spend out money each month. And then if some of these debts go into collections, they can garnish your wages, or there are certain certain creditors are able to garnish your Social Security wages outside of the IRS also. They typically have to go to court for it to even go through. But it's just, you do not want to be like 65 nearing retirement. You're having to go into a nursing home through Medicaid, and Medicaid is not going to take care of you. So you're probably in this lower quality nursing home where they're not really taking care of you. Then also, not having anything for your kids, like that also would hurt my feelings, that I'm not able to give them a better position than what I grew up in, because each generation should be able to give the next generation something so that they can, build up, a generational wealth.
Yes, let's talk more about that. Tell us more about generational wealth, what that is, how that works, why it's important, all that jazz.
Okay, so yes, like we mentioned earlier, I work for a wealth management firm. Majority of the clients are older, retired, affluent families. And so our job as like estate planners is to, how do we get that money from them to their descendants with paying the minimal amount of taxes? So, and I've learned a lot about all the tricks and techniques that you can do to avoid, like to give money to someone else without having to pay Uncle Sam his share, because as we know, Uncle Sam always wants his cut in everything. So, but for certain people, they don't even have the money to even give to the next generation. Like we don't have, especially like in the people of color space, we don't have the assets, we don't have the money to give to our children and such. And I see such a big wealth gap between like where I work during the day and then what I'm trying to do to help the working class. So definitely, like that's my goal, is to get people of the working class up to where we can have assets and generational wealth. So then they are to the point where they can pass it on to the next generation.
So that leads me to my next question then, is the importance of knowing the income that comes in, knowing the expenses that goes out. Is it more important for the working class to do that as opposed to someone in the upper class?
And I would say no, because there are plenty of people that make over $100,000 a year and they're still struggling. It doesn't really matter your economic class. It really depends on how much money you're spending out. There are people who make $725, but they have more in investments than I do, because they have sat down, they've budgeted their money, they have determined that, you know what, like yes, I'm going to be a janitor for the next 25 years, but after 25 years, I'm retired. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who would trade out in their 20s that, man, if I started when I was 20 doing this, like I could already been retired if I know what I knew now.
So we want to preserve our money in a way that will allow us to retire when we get older.
And not just preserve, because you cannot save yourself to wealth is a big thing a lot of people don't realize, is that you can't just leave money in a savings account earning 0.01% interest and then expect to retire, especially times like now that we've seen with inflation at an all-time high. Like your cash it's an asset that's losing value. So what you could have bought for $10 like in 2019, you can't buy for $10 now in 2022. Like inflation is just always going to be here and it's eroding that cash value. So that's why there's only like a few pathways to wealth, whether you're investing, through real estate, maybe if you own a business, like the blueprint is there. It's just up to you to decide like which method you want to go.
So basically, are you saying that anyone can, well, let me think about my question. Can anyone achieve generational wealth?
Yes. And that's like the main point I want people to realize, that if you really buckle down and you sit and you get serious about your finances, you can be a millionaire. There are people who did not reach $1 million net worth until they were after their 50s, well into their 60s. Like the benefit of being younger is that you have the opportunity, you have more time for that money to grow. And compound interest is like the 8th wonder of the world, as they call it. So yeah, it's just one of them things that people really need to like understand, that yes, you can build generational wealth.
So let's bring it back a bit to the expenses. So
Okay.
what are the top 3 expenses that people get so negligent on when it comes to tracking, when it comes to budgeting, tracking their income and expenses? What do you think the top 3 expenses are that people get so loosey-goosey about?
Okay, so this brings into another topic about financial infidelity. So as many as 30% of couples have hid a purchase from their spouse or significant other because they didn't want them to find out. So that's definitely number one, is that someone who's, hiding a purchase, Amazon boxes are coming when the other spouse is at work and the boxes are gone when they come back from work. So the spouse wouldn't know unless they're checking the account statements. Number 2, definitely those miscellaneous expenses will get you. Like I mentioned, your pet, holidays, birthdays, like things like that can really just like sneak up in a budget. Like, for example, we got Halloween, Thanksgiving, then immediately we got Christmas, and then New Year's, and then right after we got Valentine's Day. Like those things need to be kept in mind. And then also, if you have a child who has a birthday in any of those months, I'm going to keep you in prayer. And then last but not least, people do not factor in repairs, like for your cars or if you have a house. Now, those can be costly, and like some people don't understand like how expensive different parts of a car could be, or how expensive like to repair something in your home, especially if you have to call someone like a plumber or electrician. They charge by the hour, and then on top of labor costs. So that can just really, like, if you've done so well to like, man, I saved up $4,800, but then you have to call a plumber out here and he's charging $2,200 to clean your septic tank. Like, man, that just ate through a big portion of your savings. So what are you going to do now?
And what do you say about savings accounts? Do you think we should get them? What is your opinion about savings accounts, like regular savings accounts?
If you're going to have a savings account, like before COVID, like high yield savings accounts were like 2 to 4%. So you could accumulate, interest pretty quick. But now after COVID, the most you can get is like 0.5%, which is still better than the bank interest of around 0.01%. So I would encourage you, if you're going to have like a savings account, go through someone like Allie, and you can even get a debit card, like for, of course, in case of emergencies, because that's where we put our money into savings for emergencies or something unexpected. But yes, if you were going to plan to have like a significant amount of money in savings, I mean, it can at least earn a little bit of interest. So I would say high yield savings account, money market accounts, and yes, pick one that has a debit card, because you don't want to end up in a situation of like maybe the car doesn't start and you don't have, and you got to go to work to pick up your paycheck, but you can't, like, you don't have the funds to pay the guy to tow your car, get it fixed. Like, you don't want to run into those types of situations.
I would also say, and maybe you can comment on this, that it's also helpful to have a savings account at the same bank where you have a checking account. Um, because I personally don't use debit cards for savings, but I know I can always transfer from a savings to the checking account, which has the debit card. So, would you say what do you think of that solution as well? Like not having two separate banks for each, but keeping it all under one bank where you can easily transfer between the accounts.
And see, that depends on the person. Now, if you're a person that can put money in savings and not touch it, then yes, keep it at your regular bank for ease. But if you are a person that's like going to put money in savings and then 2 weeks later, you're taking it out because, you want to go buy some new boots or something, and you're really trying to get on the path to financial peace, you're kind of going to have to put yourself on punishment and put that money somewhere else. Also, if you're just a person who's like more visual, like they need to see it, then yes, put your money somewhere else so then that you can see it. Now, I definitely agree with you, like to put the, like you can make a money link between two accounts. And then that way, if you did absolutely need it, then you can send money over. But also, if you're the person who is just going to swipe that card like it's another debit card, then maybe don't get a debit card for that account. Maybe get a check, like in case of emergencies, or maybe just establish the money link where it takes 2 to 3 days for transfer. So then you will only use it like, dang, this is actual emergency. This isn't because I need money for like this one-time event. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, haha, sorry. So it depends on the type of person you are.
Yes.
And that if you're a person that maybe has a little bit more self-control, you can keep everything in one place. But if you tend to, spend money pretty quickly, you're saying it will help to keep it at separate banks where you
Yeah.
won't really see it as much. Um, and you know, add some layers that'll make it difficult for you to get the money um, right away. So that way, you know that knowing that it's difficult, you know that you will only use it for emergencies. Did I get that right?
Yes, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to you. Like, no one is going to hold your hand and tell you that, hey, you need to save money. Like, it's just going to have to come down to you. And then if you got to do that, then do it. Sometimes you got to put yourself on a little punishment that, hey, I can't have access to that money right now, but I can in the future. I'm going to let it accumulate. I'm going to let it get some interest on it, or I may turn around and make an account that I can fuel for investments. So now that money is going, it's growing, and it's compounding over here more than what it could do in a general savings account. Because again, that we keep money in general savings account for emergencies or for anything that's short term coming up. Now, there's nothing wrong with having, some people even have two savings accounts, one for their emergencies / rainy day funds. And then some people have like a short-term savings, like I said, going on vacation or, just any type of event that that's coming up short-term. Just start putting money back now, because you do not want to commingle your savings and your checkings. And that's another issue I see. People be like, oh, well, I have like 2,000 in my checking account and I'm putting at that to happen right after that. Something's going to happen, like you're going to blow a tire or someone slashed two of your tires, insurance doesn't want to cover it. Like, I think the main issue that we have is that people live too close to the edge. And so having these savings accounts and stuff would put like a buffer on that.
Of course. That's definitely great advice. All right. So we're a little pressed for time, so we're going to start winding down. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share, or any words of advice that you'd like to impart to our viewers?
Yes. One word of advice is that it's not going to change overnight. Like, you didn't get into debt overnight. It was a pattern of behavior. So, it's going to take time to like unwind that. It's going to take time to like get your footing. And I think a lot of people get so discouraged on their path because they're just like, I'm not going to do it. It's too much work. But even if you start in your 40s, if you start in your 50s, it's still better than never having started.
Right. And basically, you're never too young to start and you're never too old to start.
Never.
Awesome. All right, Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to put up your banner here. So you guys, Katherine, you can reach out to her on social media. She loves her Facebook. So she has a Facebook page and a Facebook group. So I encourage you to go to the page and the group and join those. So follow the page. Well, don't just follow, like. I prefer you press the like as opposed to follow. And definitely join her group. So the information is scrolling below on the screen right now. And if you would like to learn more about her services, her website is also scrolling below. It is www.bridge, but the 3 is the E, financialboutique.com. So I encourage you to go to her website and check out her Facebook page and Facebook group. Can you briefly go into your business? What do you do? What do you do for your clients?
Yes. So Bridge Financial Boutique, we are a financial coaching firm. We help people eradicate debt and get them on the path to financial peace where they're ready to build generational wealth. We do that through bi-weekly coaching sessions. And then I also host once a month, I host a webinar on some random financial topic that I think a lot of people would benefit from. Also, I will be co-hosting a Defining Your Legacy live Facebook Live event starting on March 21st, 2022. It's going to be a 5-day challenge. And so I hope you will come out and listen to us talk about financial literacy and defining your legacy.
Yes, awesome. Can you just, the 2 events that you said, can you just repeat those for the viewers?
Yes. Okay. There is one event on March 21st. It's a 5-day challenge of defining your legacy. Then on March 28th, I will be hosting a beginner-friendly intro to vesting. It's links to get your tickets are on my website, and that event is only $10. The event on March 21st, that one is free. It's just a Facebook challenge over 5 days.
All right, and there you have it. So I encourage you to attend both of those events. The information is on her website. I'm just going to put that up again real quick. So her website is scrolling below. So if you want to go to those events, I encourage you to go to her website and sign up. Sign up, sign up, sign up. Do it now. Do it now. Okay, great. All right, Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you again
having
for
you
having
today.
me.
Great. So I'm going to place you backstage. And it is just you and me, guys. So let me put up my banner. And we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wherever you are watching this episode right now, whatever platform that is, please follow us. So follow, like, subscribe, whatever the button is, wherever you are, please follow us. Press the button. And also check out our video library for more videos and clips, and check out the other episodes as well. And also, while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. I would love to hear your feedback about this episode. As a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, our services, our workshops, all the things that we have to offer, if you're looking for tutoring for your child or even for yourself, I encourage you to check out our website. I will just say it here. It is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And you could also check us out on all of our social media. The information is scrolling below. And furthermore, I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and texting list. We will let you know our promotions, special discounts, any special events going on. So you'll hear about all that before the general public when you sign up for the list. So sign up for the email list and texting list. The information is scrolling below on the screen, and it will also be provided in the description for those watching this on YouTube. And I will share this last message before I officially close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you again. And now I am signing off.